Hey everyone, excited to be back for this week's edition of Frequently Asked Questions for Commercial Real Estate. In today's video, what I want to do is talk about a topic that actually came up in conversation with one of my clients that I'm helping look for parcels of land for. And they asked, what exactly are some of the things you need to look for as you're looking to acquire a parcel of land to develop on? So in today's video, I'll share with you 6 things to consider as you're looking to do so. Now, before we dive into this video, I would greatly appreciate it if you can like and subscribe to this channel. It really helps the YouTube algorithm and ensures more and more people can hear this message and learn about the many facets of commercial real estate. So now that you've done that, go ahead and like and subscribe below. Let's go ahead and dive into this episode. All right, so the question is, what exactly do you need to consider as you're looking to acquire a parcel of land to essentially develop on? Now, there's obviously a variety of different things that you need to consider, so I can't profess to know and share everything within this video, but I will share the 6 most important things to look at as you're looking to a parcel of land to potentially acquire. Now, the first thing you need to consider is what is the zoning of that property? Essentially, what zoning is it tells you what is allowed on that parcel of land. So if in Jefferson County, we have a variety of different zoning laws, one of which is commercial zoning. And here in Jefferson County, C1 allows for a variety of different retail uses. But if you wanted to put a mechanic shop on a parcel, you would have to have a C2 zoning or higher. That's just here for Jefferson County. Obviously, in your municipality, there's going to be a variety of different zoning laws, and you're going to have to dig through your land development code to determine whether or not a particular use that you're looking to develop on site is allowed for based on the current zoning. And if it's not, you have to go through the process of rezoning that property to allow for that use to actually be allowed on site. So that's number 1, is to look at the zoning and get a feel for whether or not your intended use is going to be allowed on that parcel. So that's number 1. Number 2 is the topography. Now, what topography is how is the land laid out? Are there a lot of hills? Are there dips? Are there, are there swamps? So how is the topography of the land set up? And the reason why this is so important is because, in order to build a structure, a lot of times you need level ground. And so if the topography is very warped and that it has hills and valleys and all these other things, it presents a challenge in that you're maybe going to have to move dirt around in order to make sure that you create a stable base so that you can ultimately build a structure on. And moving dirt is not cheap. And a lot of times when you have to bring in these excavators and maybe move dirt from one place to another, that adds additional expenses to the development costs. And so there's some of the things you need to consider is that, obviously a parcel of land that's a lot more flat and level could be easier to develop on and may have less site work to get done than a piece of land that is very hilly and needs to be modified in order to develop on. And so that's number 2, is to look at the topography, and if it's really janky as far as the parcel is concerned, maybe it's something you need to consider and factor that into your ultimate offer price because it may not be land that you can develop on right away. So that's number 2. Number 3 is tree coverage, and this is becoming a lot more prevalent in areas where cities are starting to restrict how many trees you can chop down on a particular parcel. I know here in Jefferson County, for example, if you're going to buy a parcel of land here in the metro area, you can cut down, I think, 80% of the trees on site, but you have to maintain at least 20% that were original to that particular parcel. So that can affect how much land you can actually develop on. And maybe your municipality is going to have other rules involved with how much trees you can chop down prior to you actually developing on site. So that's something else to consider. And, chopping down trees can be pretty expensive, especially as you start getting into these very, very large trees. The cost, again, for site work to be able to prep the land to be able to develop could be added on and become very expensive. So you need to factor that into your offer and get an understanding of that prior to making your final offer on a piece of parcel land. So that's number 3. Number 4 is access to utilities. The reason why this is so important is because tapping into utilities can be an additional expense, adds on to site work, as they say. Along with that, if your use is going to be very heavy as far as your waste is concerned, so maybe you're a restaurant or heavy traffic area, you may have to consider that into your development work because there may be too much waste to host in a septic system or whatever else. So the city may or may not allow you to operate within that space because you do not check the boxes as far as health and safety is concerned for the amount of waste that you're going to be producing. So there's a variety of variables that you need to check off, and that's why talking to the city about what what needs to be done for that particular site is so critical, but also making sure that it has access to utilities like sewers, water, and ultimately electricity to the capacity with which you need in order to make sure that your use can operate on site. So that's number 4, is access to utilities. Number 5 is flood zones. This is a lot of times people don't think about this, is that just because the land doesn't look like it's doesn't have any rivers nearby or whatever else, it may ultimately be in the flood zone, or at least portion of the land could be in a flood zone as well. And so there's a variety of different issues that arise as a result of you being in a flood zone. There's different rules and regulations regarding what you can and can't do with land that is within a flood zone. They restrict whether or not you can actually develop structures on the portion of the land that's in the flood zone. There's ultimately higher insurance costs because you're going to have to get flood insurance in order to cover any damage that could occur if there is in fact a flood. So there's a variety of different variables you need to consider. So if you do find out that a parcel's in a flood zone, do additional research, try to get a feel for what your expenditure is going to be, see what you can actually develop on site, and then from there make your final determination. So that's number 5. And then number 6, get a feel for what easements exist on the parcel. Recently, I was looking at a parcel of land that was priced very aggressively from what I thought, and I said, "Oh, this is going to be a steal." And then all of a sudden, doing some research, I realized that there's actually an easement for an oil line going right through the parcel, which essentially eliminates a third of the parcel altogether that you cannot develop on. There may be some other easements like utility easements that are in place. I remember a parcel that my broker was looking to sell a while back had literally this big easement running straight through the property that had the electric pylons running right through it, and you couldn't develop anything nearby those pylons. And so it just added so much more complexity and so much more hair on that parcel that no one really wanted to even touch it. And so again, getting a feel for what easements exist and how they're going to affect your ability to develop that parcel is extremely important. And so those are 6 things that you need to look at. Obviously, there's a variety of different other things that you may potentially need to look at, and that's where you would talk to someone who's an experienced developer, or even someone like myself or someone in our office that are commercial real estate agents, to give you a better understanding of their variables that you need to consider as you're going through the process of acquiring a land parcel. If you yourself are looking to do something similar here in the Jefferson County area, feel free to give me a call. My number is 502-536-7315, or you can reach me via email at Raphael@grisantigroup.com. Our brokerage has done business all over Kentucky, Indiana, Ohio, etc. So if you are in the market, feel free to give me a call. Along with that, if you like this channel, I greatly appreciate it if you can like and subscribe to this channel, because this really helps with the YouTube algorithm and ensures more and more people can hear this message and learn about the many facets of commercial real estate. So thanks again all for tuning in, and we'll see you all next time.